Hello, seventh grade. We're going to yesterday in the notes try to get through this section. Once again, uh, Zoom review for y'all will be Thursday at 11 o'clock. Test on about how the United States was fortunate that their aircraft carriers had been moved. They were not in dock at Pearl Harbor. Had been moved too, but nonetheless, 24 killed or wounded during the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7th of 1941. 19 ships sank or disabled, and 188 planes destroyed or disabled. Um, the aircraft carriers were key. I mentioned that at the very end. I mean, these are the ones that an aircraft carrier does just what its name implies. It carries. Fighters didn't have leave the coast of the United States nor leave down the island of Hawaii. Those carriers would have been damaged badly or destroyed. It would have been really bad for the Americans at the time. Uh, President Roosevelt asked Congress for a declaration of war. Of course, he gets it, and famously, I put it in quotations, called it a date which will live in infamy, talking about December the 7th. December the 11th, 4 days. Declare war on the United States. They were basically in a pact with Japan. Um, really, it's been debated how this really served their best interest, but the Allies, Britain, and the Soviet Union, and now Great Japan. Great Britain was Churchill was probably at the news of the bombing of Pearl Harbor and the Americans, us getting drug in the war. He was probably in his own way happy. He didn't really, not that he wanted to see bad things come to us, but he needed us in the war. Remember, Great Britain uh, invaded Russia was by themselves. Now the Americans were in the war, and Great Britain goes on to declare war on Japan. Um, and then the Soviet Union, we talked a little bit, mentioned Joseph Stalin. The Soviets, these aren't necessarily the kind of allies you want. Of my enemy is my friend. And it served very much a big purpose to ally with them against Germany. Um, some of the sea and air battles. Germany had sunk 100 Allied and new. They were tearing up shipping. Remember, Great Britain's an island. So if you're cutting off their supplies, you're cutting this thing. The Germans launched the May of 1941. You can go look on YouTube, look up all kinds of pictures about the Bismarck. It was one of the largest battleships ever built. But in May, just the same month, May 26th, the British found it and sank it. That's a story in and of itself. But this ended Germany's attempt to control the seas with surface ships. They felt like their best chance was going to be the U-boats. But the Bismarck does get sunk. There was another battleship. I think the biggest one built was one called the Tirpitz, but it really never wound up serving a major function in terms of the sea or controlling the sea in any way. Um, the Battle of Stalingrad. In August of 42, the Germans attacked Stalingrad after Joseph Stalin. It taken. It wasn't necessarily that the city was a some spectacular strategic needed to be taken that would be the difference in winning and losing the war. But Stalin was going to hold. wanted it. And so the Soviets ultimately a counterattack in German troops, which cut off their supply lines, used to allow a retreat. And this was not uncommon with they just think they can will it. I just will you to stay and fight, you're going to win. Allow a retreat. And Russian winter set in. Here comes the Russian winter again. Now you're stuck in Stalingrad, all the 80 to 90% of the city. But the Russians were being supplied by and so they could still keep a toehold in the city. Once they surrounded them, there were still pleas to break out, to retreat, to try to break out of Stalingrad. The Germans were asking. They were told no. They were told no on a couple occasions, and the German commander finally surrendered in 1943. Hitler had made him a field marshal either the day before the day that he actually surrendered, trying to drive home a point where he believed that had ever surrendered on the battlefield. But the cause was lost. The Germans were in bad shape. All that was going to happen if they were going to either die from the cold or ultimately die in battle with 100,000 men killed and another 88,000 captured. Unfortunately for these men who were captured, they were not treated well. The war on the Eastern Front was really vicious. I mean, as far as warfare goes, all warfare is vicious, but I mean, it was truly vicious when you're talking about the mentality of the Stalins and the Hitlers. Most of these men that were captured never made it back home. I want to say out of those 80-something thousand, maybe 5,000 made it at some point after the war. But the Battle of Stalingrad point in World War II, and it is about this time that German victories in Germany moving forward in the Soviet Union had stopped, and they were going to start moving backwards as the Soviet Union, the Soviet Army, the Red Army was going to be pushing them back, and then ultimately to a loss for Germany. That is where we're going to stop here today. We will actually finish up World War II next week to finish not just up that section, but it will finish up the school year for y'all. So be thinking of any questions you may have. I'll see you on your review Thursday at 10.